As a massive Nintendo fan, I've been completely worried about when Nintendo would release their new console. When would the Switch 2 drop? Did I miss that a competitor is actually going to beat Nintendo to the punch with a brand new handheld? And I'm not talking about like an Asus or a V-Smile. I'm talking about Sony. Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. I am beaming ear to ear because we got a great show, and as you're watching this, I'm watching the Mario Bros. Movie. A day that I've been waiting for since I was a wee little sperm or egg combination. The unification of games and movies is something that usually ends poorly, but I'm hoping I come back to the review later today. That is fantastic. Hope you guys are excited to see that. And I want to let you know that I'm Zach from SwitchForce. Hope you're all doing good. What's going on, everybody? We've got lots to talk about, including a new Sony handheld releasing before Switch 2. All right, that is the focus of the day, but there's some other bits that I need to bring to your attention, including this. Oh, but what is it, you ask? Oh, my friends, this is the delicious painting of Daniel Kong himself. DK roller coaster looks like it's going indoors, outdoors, getting ready at Japan. Hopefully it will debut next spring. I cannot freaking wait. Donkey Kong plays a big part in the movie. There's a Donkey Kong expansion coming to the theme park, and they're already well at work painting this land and making it look like a temple with mine carts and all sorts of mad crocodile action. Cannot wait. Hope it drops soon. Now, many of us thought that Mario would drop soonish. The movie's out, and where's the game? I mean, you can go back and play Mario Strikers, Mario Golf, you can play Mario 3D World, but there's nothing that screams new Mario. And frankly, there hasn't been a new major platformer since Mario Odyssey. That's insane. The Switch is Nintendo's coolest, best system ever, and there's one mainline Mario game to speak of and kind of like a DLC expansion, Bowser's Fury. But thankfully, the king himself, Miyamoto, had something to say when discussing the Mario movie. He was asked about when's the next Mario game, and here's what he said. Well, all I can say is please stay tuned for future Nintendo Directs. 2 huge confirmations here. All right, YouTubers big and small, get ready to post those headlines because Miyamoto just confirmed that Directs will continue and Mario will continue. You heard it here first. I mean, it's basically nothing, but at least they asked him and at least he didn't no-comment them straight off the stage. He did answer. And maybe they're going to announce a new Mario soon. I mean, whether Miyamoto said this or not, it feels like it's just got to be time. But maybe this is a slight hint that in an upcoming Direct, they'll talk about Mario. I think he's just indicating that that's where they announce Mario games, which, yes, Miyamoto, thank you. But also, I hope he's kind of... I hope this is his nudge. The guy does not like to crack. He has said before, like, we have no new systems, and then a new system, a handheld. But I hope that this is a slight hint. And in case you were worried that Nintendo skipping out on E3 meant no more Directs, well, there will be more Nintendo Directs. You heard it from the man who made Mario himself. With that out the way, let's dive into today's biggest story, which was a handheld from Sony. This began over the weekend when Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming tweeted out about a new piece of Sony hardware. All right, he tweeted out that, hey, for those asking, the new Sony hardware I alluded to in yesterday's April Fool's Day stream hasn't been reported on yet. And no, it wasn't an April Fool's. So he knows about some piece of Sony hardware that has not been reported on and is not a joke. He went on to say that I'll be able to talk about it in more detail, but there's a new piece of Sony hardware that will be released before the Pro. He's talking PlayStation 5 Pro, which he's indicated, according to his sources and knowledge, will drop next year in 2024. So this would be a 2023 release. He said when this new hardware does get announced, it's going to be very interesting to see what the competition thinks of it. Nintendo kind of operates in one sphere right now, right? Microsoft operates in a different sphere. Steam operates in more of a Nintendo sphere. Sony's in Microsoft's sphere. So which competition is he talking about? Maybe all of them. A lot of people started to believe that perhaps this was a Vita 2. If you don't remember, if you're not old like me, the Vita was a real classic console. The first great indie machine to take on the go. In fact, it did a lot of what the Switch did before the Switch, except the first-party support was about 3 out of 10. Whereas now, the first-party support from Nintendo is 10 out of 10. And that's all the difference in the world. Plus, it could not switch, and it was a much smaller screen, and the buttons didn't feel as great, but it's a nice console. And before I had the Switch to play things like Celeste and Katana Zero, the Vita was where I played Rogue Legacy. The Vita is where I played Sound Shapes. The Vita is where I would have played Hollow Knight Silksong in a different universe where Sony actually supported that with better first-party games than Uncharted Golden Abyss. Anyhow, people have wanted Sony to dive back into the handheld space for a while now, and they've been very reluctant to do so. Nintendo owns the handheld space. They have for years. The DS and 3DS were insane, and the Switch shifted things even further in Nintendo's direction. Now with the Steam Deck out there, is there room for another handheld that has a shop, has games, does it all? Well, the Vita rumors have really been persisting, and we just got a brand new report about this. So now Insider Gaming is reporting on the PS Vita 2, saying that Jeff Grubb took to Twitter and added his side of the story. So Jeff Grubb is at Super Nintendo World right now and gave this update. Jeff, smell the roses, baby. Smell the piranha plants, all right? Look around. I saw a kid trying to become a SoundCloud rapper. You might see somebody smashing their face with a peach cupcake. But Jeff, if you see the peach mug, I'm still looking for it. Those mugs are sold out everywhere. There's not a single one on the internet. If anyone knows where I can get a peach or a Yoshi mug from Super Nintendo World, forever grateful. Anyhow, Jeff Grubb went to Twitter and said, I see the reports about a potential Vita 2, and I would definitely scope down those expectations. Everything erased. Will this end up being like a Sony PlayStation remote, and that's the new hardware? A PS5 mouth set to speak like the Robo-Dinos from Horizon? Will it be a Sony PlayStation branded kitchen blender? It still is going to be a handheld, according to Grubb, so we're still there. This is not some crazy article that goes wrong, but Grubb says, I've only ever heard about a cloud streaming handheld, indicating that it would not be a Vita 2, or at least it wouldn't be a Vita 2 in the way that we think of it. It could still use the Vita branding, but instead it would be a streaming handheld from the cloud, which would require an online connection. Basically, it's a Steam Deck that pulls from PlayStation with less versatility than any of the other handhelds. This seems like a very strange move, but in a way to keep users in their ecosystem, it could be cool. Like, imagine if you could pair this Vita 2, Vita Cloud with your PlayStation 5, and later this year play Spider-Man 2 at home, go on family vacation for Thanksgiving with your parents, and still play on the road, as long as you had a good 5G signal. Now, I think this actually is most interesting to see how Microsoft reacts, and that's where I think Tom Henderson's comments come back in terms of the competition. Because I think Microsoft is the perfect person to make a cloud streaming handheld because they have Game Pass. You could get someone a Microsoft Handbox. That sounds super, super inappropriate, but I'm trying to think of Xbox, P-Box. Oh, no. They would have a little box, and it could just be a Game Pass device. You get someone the device, it comes with a subscription to Game Pass, and you're set. That's it. You just play Game Pass on the go. Boom. Genius. That, to me, seems much more competitive with the Steam Deck and a Switch than the PlayStation side, because PlayStation has their own sort of pass, but it's nowhere near at the level, the stature, and the volume of Microsoft's Game Pass. The article continues to go on and say the company is working on this new PS5 Pro in 2024. They're working on a detachable disk drive PS5, and cloud streaming handheld would lead to the belief that the device would be similar to that of the Logitech G Cloud system. As far as traditional handhelds go, that seems to be the Steam Deck's market right now, with other companies trying to compete with Valve. Meaning, well, first off, meaning they're forgetting the Switch, because yes, the Switch isn't a traditional handheld, but that is clearly the market leader. But a cloud streaming device does not hold a feather to Mario or to Mr. Gabe Newell. You need to have local games and a much larger library to play wherever you are if you want to make something like that work. A cloud handheld then becomes difficult because it only works if it's very affordable. The idea of Sony putting out a PS5 portable like a Vita 2 that has insane graphics, probably unlikely. Look how hard it's been for the Switch to carry forth their specs, and we still have not seen anything of what they're doing next. Sony does have more technological prowess and a focus on graphics and performance, but this cloud streaming thing wouldn't really take advantage of that. I mean, I guess it would in a way because it'd be streaming, but it's so limited use case requiring an online connection, and judging based on the price of the PlayStation VR 2, if this is indeed the route they're going, a cloud handheld device, I think that thing needs to be $200 in order to be a really recommendable purchase. Because if they come in at $300 or $350, the price of a Switch, why on earth would you buy a device that literally only lets you play your PlayStation 5 games on the go when you have an internet connection? No dedicated games, and you already have the PS5. It's like, now we see just how genius the Switch is, because it unifies things into one box. You pay once instead of having to pay twice. The Game Pass Microsoft option is also double dipping on some sort of Xbox console, but again, I feel that's different because the Game Pass thing can exist on its own, as Game Pass is such a robust service and it's so chock full of day one exclusives, major AAA titles, and just plenty of other genres for anyone to explore and dive into. A Sony Cloud doesn't quite do it for me. A Vita 2 would be really interesting and just up the ante in competition for Nintendo. This next the Switch 2 would compete with the Vita 2, and that would be like just a dream come true. I love handhelds, and I'd love to have another one. But the cloud, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It seems like this is going to be discussed and announced at some point soon. I've heard rumblings about Sony's plans. They're not going to be at E3, but it does sound like summertime is when we will have a big showcase from them, as I'm sure you can expect. And maybe this is where that gets shown off there. At the same time, hardware could have a presentation of its own, so keep your eyes peeled. I will let you know. But things could get way more interesting for Nintendo if there are more competitors out there. And whatever this is, if it spawns Microsoft into building their own handheld, well, now the Switch 2 has to compete with the Game Pass, the Vita Cloud. I still think the Switch wins out, but it might make Nintendo need to get much more competitive. And it might make third parties a far more interesting playscape where we're throwing out dollars to attract attention and get them on our handheld. I think competition is great for everyone, and I do think Nintendo being pushed a bit with their next console would be preferable for us, especially on the power side, especially on the third-party side, especially on the online services side. So let's see what this is all going to turn into. Vita 2, Cloud Sony, nothing at all. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments down below. But both Grubb and Tom Henderson, respectable, well-known people that don't say rumors lightly anymore. I think this is coming. It's just determining what exactly it is. In the meantime, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. No matter what, at least Miyamoto announced a new Mario game someday. Love you guys lots. Thanks again. SwitchForce out.